Okay, so and we are recording. Just increase the volume. Alright, so what we're going to do in this video is first we're going to prepare our 3D models to generate a series of sequences that will end up looking like what we see over here in this collection here. So I've already done a render sequence in Unreal showing the different angles or showing different details of the model that I want, in this case my vehicle, and then including of course the wireframes that is rendered from Maya. So now that I've done this, I also want to do another sequence for my character. So my character is here. So this is a previous file that I have not smoothed yet, so it should include the wireframes. If I turn on wireframes on shaded, okay, showing the low res model. Okay, so as you can see over here, my wireframes has been changed to a black color. So if your color, the wireframes is not changed to a black color, you can go over to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Color and Settings, under the Inactive tab here, under Objects, Polygon Surfaces, change it from the blue, originally is blue, to black. Alright, and of course we need to reassign a different material so that the black will show better or contrast better on our 3D models. So right now we're going to already save this as a separate file. Okay, so I will save this as a new file. I will save scene as, I will call this PilotVille number 21 underscore wire on shaded, and then save. And now I can reassign a brand new material for all the objects here. So I'm going to select all my polygon objects, right mouse click, assign a new material, and I'm going to assign a Lambert material. And for this Lambert, I'm going to call it shaded material, shaded, in my material editor attributes. And I will change the color into a bright white color. Alright, and just to make the color stand out more during my renders, I will go over and bump up the incandescence, okay, just slightly, about 1/5 on the scale here. And I'm going to assign the same materials right to my helmet here. So I'm going to select the entire helmet here, right mouse click, assign existing material, and assign the shaded material that I've done. So I should have both my objects right, or both my models right, having the same shaded material. Okay, right now they are right in the center. I can set up my camera rig so I can render the turntable. So I'm going to create first a locator. I have to switch over to modeling mode first, then create locator, and then this locator will act as a handle for my camera. So next thing I want to create is a camera. I want to make sure the cameras are visible in my viewport. So click on show, make sure cameras are visible, then create a camera. Create, let's see, camera, and then just create a normal camera. And you can see now the camera is pointing straight at my character. With the camera selected, press W to move, then bring it up, and so that it's looking straight at the character. Next, under panels, you want to go to panels in your viewport, perspective, and choose camera view, so that we are now controlling the camera. So we can zoom out slightly, and so that we can see the camera looking straight at our character. Next, I want to turn on the camera framing, which is the resolution gate. Okay, our current resolution gate is at 960 by 640 or 540. I want to change it into a much higher resolution so that my wires will appear finer. And at the same time, make sure that your renderer is using the viewport 2, and under the option box, anti-aliasing at the bottom here is turned on with a sample count of 16. Alright, with that done, we are going to set up the resolution. So go to the render options. Okay, make sure that you are rendering using the Maya Hardware 2.0. So render using Maya 2.0. Remember to change this. Alright. So under Maya 2.0, scroll down, make sure the anti-aliasing is all turned on, and also the render options. We want to render at the render mode in wire on shaded. Okay, so we want to render just exactly what we see in this viewport here. Then under the common tab, we want to make sure that we are rendering a sequence So instead of a single frame, we are rendering a sequence, and we're going to render at a frame rate of 30 frames a second. So we're going to render at 300 frames. So the end frame here, we're going to put 300. So we're going to render 300 frames. And the file name, we can actually set our file name here by clicking on this box here. If we don't set it, okay, it will use our scene name as a file name. So I want to change it to a much more recognizable name. I'm going to call this Pilot Girl Wire Unshaded. Okay, and then image format, I want to use PNG. PNG is fine. It will give it a transparency overall. And then finally, the renderable camera, make sure you choose the correct camera, otherwise you will not render the correct camera. Presets, we're going to use a custom frame rate. We're going to use 4K resolution. So if you search online, the 4K resolution is this figure here, 3840 by 2160. So remember to go and change the width, 3840 to 2160. Right, so that it is the same 16 by 9 format. Okay, 2160, 3840, 2160. Okay, so once you've done that, you should be rendering this at 4K. And also right now I'm going to reframe my camera a bit. I'm going to just move the camera closer. Alright, and then in my outliner, I want to parent the camera to the locator. So grab the camera, middle mouse click on it, middle mouse click and hold, drag it over the locator so that we parent it to the locator. Now we can animate the locator so that it can turn around at 360 degrees. So we are going to set our frame range to 300 frames. So our output frames, we're going to change this to 300. And so that we can see the entire 300 frame in the timeline here. So for the first frame, we're going to set a keyframe in the rotation of the y-axis for the locator. So go over to the channel box, or you can press Ctrl A, and go over to the rotation y-axis, rotation y-axis. Right now it's 0 degrees, so we're going to set a keyframe. Right mouse click and say key selected. You can see a red line on the timeline here. Drag the indicator all the way to 300, and then we're going to change the value of 0 to 359. Okay, why is there a 1 degree discrepancy? So that if I play back this sequence, it will snap just nice to this frame. Okay, so we're going to add a keyframe by right mouse clicking and then say key selected again, so that we have another red line here. And if I drag the timeline, you can see that the camera is now animated. Okay, so I'm going to put the helmet and the accessories a little bit closer. Press Q to select, shift select these, and then press W to move. I want to move them closer to my Pilot Girl, right at the bottom of her feet. Okay, so now you can see it is turning around just nice. Okay, but I think I can still move it closer some more. Just keep it as tight as possible. Okay, the helmet gets clipped a little, but that's fine. Okay, my main interest is on this Pilot Girl here. Okay, so I think we got everything done. There's one more thing we need to adjust, that is the animation. Okay, if you hit the playback, alright, you can see that it picks up speed, then becomes constant speed, and then it slows down again. So we do not want that. And also make sure that your animation is playing back at the correct frame rate. Okay, right now it's playing at 24 frames per second. I want to change it to 30 frames per second. And also make sure the playback speed, instead of play every frame, is set to 30 frames per second, because that is the default. That was the default. Alright, so now it is playing back at 30 frames per second, but the acceleration, deceleration is wrong. So we're going to change that. Change your panel's layout to 2 panes stacked. Then at the bottom panel, we're going to open up the graph editor. Okay, so make sure you select. Okay, I'm going to change this temporarily. Okay, actually we can select the camera handle here in the outliner, so you can see the first key and the last key. I'm going to drag a box to these 2 keys, and then I'm going to click on linear so that they become a constant speed. So right now if I play back the animation, you can see that it plays back smoothly. And in fact, if I loop this animation, right, it will play back continuously, smoothly. And because of this, we can now go and render our sequence. So I'm going to save this scene, and then switch over to rendering mode. Alright, then I can click on render, and then make sure you click on this render sequence option box. Make sure you choose the correct camera. We are rendering camera 1. And then the alternate output file location, we can force it to render on our projects folder. Okay, so it's going to be rendering into the TMP folder. Okay, if you cannot find your files, doesn't matter, because from my experience, right, specifying the folder doesn't really help. Okay, so even if you specify this folder, it will still render into the TMP folder. Alright, so once you're ready to render, just click on render sequence, and you will not be able to see anything. Okay, in fact, to check your renders, you have to go over to your project folder, render your project folder, and then the your Maya project folder, go into images, and it should be rendered in the TMP, and there you see it is inside the TMP folder, and the frames are being rendered frame by frame. Okay, so it takes about I don't know, 1 second or maybe slightly less than a second to render. Okay, so we can open up each frame to, can open one of the frames to examine it, and I think it looks good. Because this is 4K, the lines are very clear. Okay, so we'll be compiling this in After Effects later on. So we'll just let this sequence continue to render. So at the same time, we can now jump over to Unreal. Okay, so these are the Unreal sequences that we created previously, and I'm going to create a new level so that I can just render my character right in the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this level that I created previously. So I'm going to duplicate this level, so go over to the Control Space Bar, go over to Maps, and this is called my Assignment 3 level. So I'll go to my Assignment 3 level, and I'm going to right mouse click and duplicate it, and then I'm going to rename this my Assignment 3 level. I'm going to call this Character Only. Then I'm going to load this level. It's going to ask me to save this. I'll say save, and I should load in the identical level, but this one is only for the character. And for some strange reason, my this platform has been textured with some other object. So I'm going to change the material to something else, maybe polished marble. Okay, so this is fine. All right, so now I'm going to get rid of these dancing girls and the scooter. So remember the scooter, right? You can use the blueprint method. You can create a blueprint out of the parts. I'm going to select immediate children and then delete them. And then my helmet, I'm just going to bring this closer to my character. Okay, right now the issue is that we have, okay, I'm going to get rid of this object here also. We want to put everything in the center of the world here. Okay, so I'm going to move my character, which is currently all these parts here. So I'm going to select all the parts and organize it a bit first. So right mouse click, no, actually click on this button here, add it into a folder. Okay, so now I can select everything here. Now you can see if you have your character that is made out of so many parts, it can become quite a pain, right, to select them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blueprint of this character. So I will just, maybe I'll delete this. Select the immediate children and then I will delete them. Okay, I'll leave the helmet there because the helmet is still quite straightforward. Okay, I don't need this scooter here. Right, and I will create a new blueprint. So I'll create a basic actor first. Right, and then the actor is right now at 0, 0 location. So I'm going to put everything at 0, 0 location. 0 out the location. So let's find the new actor. So I'm going to rename this actor, press F2. Then I'm going to call it BP underscore character. And I'm going to go down to this button here, convert it into a blueprint. I'm going to use the default value. And as you do this, right, a new editor will pop up, and you can see right now we have opened up the actor. So the actor, you can think of it as a empty box, which you can put in other items into it. Alright, so I'm going to drop my character. Okay, so I'll go over to the character here, and I'm just going to filter the static mesh or the skeletal mesh, so it only shows the skeletal mesh of my model. Then I'm going to select all the skeletal mesh by shift selecting all. Alright, and then drag and drop it into the blueprint editor, and I should be able to see my character now inside the single blueprint. Alright, then I'll click on compile and save. So now I have a character blueprint, but where is the location of this character blueprint? Now usually it is at the what do you call that? It is located at the last place that I am at in the content browser, so which is at the maps level. So let me clear the filter first. And there you can see my blueprint character is there. But you notice my blueprint character is sunken down like that. So we're going to fix that. For my BP character, I'm going to drag the character and drop it into the blueprints folder. Okay, so that all my other blueprints are here. And now I can reposition my character. And I'm just going to put her in the center of the camera handle. So the camera handle is this one over here. Okay, so I'll roughly put her in so it's at the center. Okay, because remember we already animated this camera to fly around. So we are going to open up our sequencer under cinematics. Okay, we have a previous sequencer that we have created. So I think we want to create a brand new sequencer so that we can do the whole turntable again. So I'll create a cinematic. Okay, and I want to create a level sequencer. Okay, actually I do not want to do that. I want to create it over here. Add a level sequence, yeah, like that. So for this one, I'm just going to call it character sequence or SEQ, then click save. Alright, so we have an empty character sequence. So we want to animate the camera and the handle. Alright, so I'm going to grab, shift select both of these two, drag and then drop it into the character actor sequence here. And there shouldn't be any animation. Okay, so we had to create a turntable animation. We already parented the camera to this handle in a previous example. So right now I want to reposition my camera. Okay, and also adjust the focus of my camera so that the focus is on my character. So go and select the camera. Alright, then scroll down to look for the focus, and then use the eyedropper, click on the eyedropper and then click on the character. So now the character is in focus. Okay, And we also want to set a frame duration of 300 frames. So we're going to change our view here into cinematic view, so we can actually change the numbers here. This is the in frame and out frame. So I want to change this out frame, the red numbers, to 300, so you can see it reflected here. So the rendering duration, I'm going to extend it all the way to 300. Okay, right now we don't see any animation, so we want to animate, and also I want to put this helmet right next to her. Okay, so let's animate the handle, because it is the handle that we are animating. So with the handle selected, click on the add track here to add a transform. So now we have the transform here so that we can add a rotation along the, okay, we open up the rotation here. We're going to rotate along the yaw axis. Okay, you can think of the yaw axis as like the Z axis here. Now notice that the Z in Unreal is pointing up to the sky. So it's different orientation than in Maya. Okay, so first I'll start at frame 0. And I'll do a yaw keyframe. Okay, so I'm going to click on this plus sign to add a yaw keyframe. Now you notice that my keyframe is green in color because I've changed it from cubic, okay, to linear. Okay, so make sure you change your keyframe type to linear so that the rotation will be a constant speed. Okay, so I already created a keyframe, so now I'm gonna scrub all the way to 300 frames, and I'm gonna change the value to 359 degrees. Alright, so just like what I did in Maya. Alright, and it automatically generates a keyframe for me. So now I can test out the animation. So in order to see the animation on the viewport, you need to click on this lock viewport to camera cuts, so that when I play back, you can see the animation is now playing a turntable. Now if you see this red warning message, right, I think you can ignore it. When you render this, right, you shouldn't be in a problem. Okay, or we can run a command to allocate more texture memory to the display. But right now, I think we should be able to render this out. So I'm going to save this, Ctrl+Shift+S to save. Alright, Ctrl+Shift+S to save. So once it's saved already, we can now render this. Now, you can adjust a bunch of things. You can, of course, if your things is too shiny or whatever, or there's too much atmospheric effect, you can go over to the post-process volume and remember to turn it off. Okay, under here, right now it's enabled. I can turn it off, so you can see that a lot of the fog, right, has disappeared. Okay, so I turn off the post-process volume if you have one. Okay, and I'm just going to scrub the timeline again, make sure that everything looks okay. I think the camera can still afford to go in a little bit more, so I'm going to hold on to Alt. Okay, make sure that I'm driving. Okay, right now I'm not driving this camera, so I'm going to have to click to select the camera and get out of cinematic view to default viewport and change, make sure I'm looking at the camera. So move the camera closer, put it more in the center, and then check my camera handle. Make sure the camera handle is directly underneath my character like this. Okay, then go back to the camera and then just continue to adjust. Okay, right now you see my character is floating, so I'm going to bring her down until her feet is touching the platform. Okay, so everything looks good now, and we can render this out. Okay, so we can change this back to our cinematic view and to the camera view. Okay, and then check. Okay, check that your camera cuts, right, you are looking through the camera. Okay, so once you verify this, we can render this out. So make sure that you choose Movie Render Queue. If not, go and enable it in your plugins. Then click on the folder here. Okay, so I have a previous Scooter Pass render that is part of the level here. So I will remove this. I'm not rendering this one. I'm only rendering the character sequence. Okay, and we can click on the configuration and we can see where it's being rendered to, the output directory, and then the name. So it's going to be rendering it based on the level name, so it's character only. So I think this is fine. Everything else looks good. The resolution is okay, 1920x1080, but the frame rate I'm going to change to 30 frames per second. Okay, just make sure that it's running at 30 frames per second, and then accept. Now I can hit render local. So we're going to see whether we have this bug where the camera just remains still. If that happens, right, we can fix that quite easily. Okay, usually the first time rendering, right, is need to render the memory. So you can see now the textures don't have any problems. Okay, unlike earlier on where we see the warning message. And then we are done. Okay, the rendering is now done, and we can go and check our rendered images. I'm going to open up another instance of File Explorer, and then we'll go over to see the result. So it is inside this location here, assignment 3, ADM models, and inside the saved movie renders. And then you can see here are the rendered files. So just to keep this area clean, I'm going to organize this folder a little bit. So I'm going to locate the last file, which is should be at frame 300. Then I'll cut this, right mouse click and cut, or Control X. Then I'm going to create a new folder, then call it character only. And paste it here. Alright, so now I got my turntable, the diffuse lighting for the turntable. Then now I want to render some passes, okay, where the camera is moving up and down closer to her, so that we can see all the details. Alright, so for that I got to reanimate the camera. So for this one, I'll probably use a new camera. I can create a new camera and then add it into this sequence here. Okay, so I will get out from cinematic view, back to default viewport, and I'm going to create a brand new camera. Add cinema camera. So now I have a new camera, and I'm just going to animate the camera moving up and down close to her. Okay, right now I realize the lighting, right, I want the light to be more in front of her. So you can use this command, Control L, and then adjust lighting. Control L, and then just move your mouse until, okay, one more time. It seems to stop working now. Let me undo that. Okay, I got a brand new camera now, so this is the default viewport right now. So this is the, I'm looking through, I should be looking through the camera now. Okay, for some reason right now the camera looks like it's locked. Okay, let me check where is the camera. This one, okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm in selection mode, perspective top. Okay, there's some bug over there. All of a sudden I couldn't select the camera. So right now I should be able to see through the camera. Yes. So I'm going to select the camera that I just created, and I'm just going to create a series of passes, right, where the camera just move from top to bottom or bottom to top. Then I'm going to stop at the bottom, and you can see that the camera, right, the new camera focus is out. So with the new camera selected, go over to the properties of the camera and look for the focus setting, use the eyedropper, and then click on your character. And if everything else still looks very blurry, you can change the the aperture size. Right now the focal length, f-stop is 1.2. I'm going to change it to 2.8. And the current f-stop is, they didn't really say what is the current f-stop. Let me see. Okay, so we can increase the aperture so that everything else will be more in focus. Maybe I'll put the aperture at 8. Okay, so the higher the number, the smaller the aperture, everything else will be more in focus. Alright, so now I want to animate the camera moving from bottom to top. So I will need to drag the camera into my sequencer here. So drag the new camera and then drop it here. And right now I want to see what the camera is seeing. So drag the camera again and drop it into this camera cuts. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this, add the camera and then change it to the camera 0. Okay, so you can click on this and then change to camera 0. So it's looking what the camera is seeing right now. So I want to animate the camera moving from bottom to top. So I'm going to hide these. I'm going to add a track for camera 0, the new camera that I created. I'm going to add a transform. Okay, right now I should have a transform node here, so that I can animate the camera moving up and down, rotation, and so on. So I'll add a transform for location. Okay, and then have the camera move up. Okay, so how many seconds? Maybe I want to put 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12, so I'll start at 120. Then I will move the camera from this angle all the way up to her face, and maybe pull out a little bit. Then I will add another key, and then I have this animation done. Okay, and then in the next frame, you can use your cursor key to navigate one frame. Then I will change the camera position to another location. Something like this over here, and then add another keyframe by putting location. Then I'm going to give another 4 seconds, so that'll be stopping at 240. Use the cursor again to navigate, and then we are going to animate. Okay, right now, okay, 240 should be here. Okay, I made a mistake already. I forgot to set a key. Let me undo that. Yeah, so I forgot to set one more key here. At 121, I should set another key. Alright, so I should set another location key to mark the end of this location. So 120, yeah, there should be one more key there. Then 121. 121 is the key which I suddenly move the camera to another position so that it can look like it is snapping to another location. So at 121, I'm going to move it to another location. Like where I started here, maybe around here, yeah. And this time, because I'm moving the camera forwards and backwards a lot, I'm going to make sure that the camera focus, right, is tracked to the character. So I will go and look under focus for the camera. Under the camera setting, under focus, where is it? Focus settings, and then instead of manual, right, I'm going to use tracking. So which one am I tracking? So click on the tracking settings, use the eyedropper again, and then click on the character. Right, so now the character will always be in focus regardless where you place the camera. Okay, then from this point in time, I will set a keyframe. This is 121. I'll just click another keyframe. So indicate that this is where it will start, and then at 240, Okay, I will pan the camera, I will zoom the camera away, and then pan down at the same time to review the character. Okay, the character still looks like she's floating. I'm going to move her down. Okay, so now I'll put a new keyframe. So that now you can see that I got one pan here like that. Okay, all of a sudden, right, this part doesn't make sense anymore. Okay, I have to set another keyframe at frame 1. Okay, I think I know why. Because I did not set the I did not animate the focal length. Okay, never mind. I will try to do this one more time. Earlier on, right, it is from bottom to top. So I'll come to this frame at frame 0. Okay, and then I'll recompose my shot again. And then I'll set a key. And from here, it should jump to another location. Okay, something is not right here. Okay, I think most likely, yes, because it didn't set key for rotation, that's why it's not moving. So I should be setting keys for not only just location, I should be setting it for the rotation as well. So that is why it is not working here. So I'm going to just start this all over. Okay, I made a mistake there. So every time I do a new key, I should be setting a transform key that will include both the rotation and the transform. Okay, so I'll start back again. So this time I'll start a transform key. So this time it should include the rotation as well. Then as I move up 120, here I'll pan it up, and the character should remain in focus all the time right now. And pull it out slightly. Then I will turn on this auto key so that every time I do a change, right, it should set a key for me. So next, I'll set another transform key here. Then at frame 121, which I'm going to use the cursor to move to the next frame, I'm going to start from the top of her face here. And then pan down slowly. So I'll set another key right about here. And then at 240, I want the camera to pan out and also move down at the same time. And turn slightly like this. Alright, so now you can see it registers the key automatically for me. So that now I should have the pan down, okay, or rather from bottom to top, and then the pan out. Okay, so I'm going to do one more. So at frame 241, I'm going to set another key. So by clicking at the transform, you will set another key, and then I will scrub all the way to the back to 300, and perhaps do a still frame. Just showing the character standing out like that. Okay, just a still frame like that. And I think I will overwrite the last keyframe here. So at 241, I'll just change it to this location. Yeah, and it should, with the auto key on, this button here, it should overwrite the key there. So let's see the final animation. So start from bottom top and then pull out to show the character, and then finally this shot here. Okay, there's a side pullback. I think that's fine. Okay, so now I got a brand new sequence. So now I can save this. So Control Shift S to save the sequencer. And let's do a test render. Okay, so let's click on render, and it should be rendering this one character sequence into this location. But I do not want this render pass to have the same name, so I'm going to change the name a bit. So the name is still based on the project directory, based on the sequence name. Okay, so the sequence name currently is character sequence. So I want to change it to job name. Alright, so the job name is character sequence. I can go and rename this. Okay, job name, I'm going to call this character passes. Okay, so character passes. Then under the configuration, we're going to change the file name format to job name instead. So job name is job underscore name. So we're going to change this to job name. Alright, then accept. So now we can render this. Okay, so it's going to start from the bottom up. Okay, that's what we expected. Then after that, pull out. Then it will have a full view like that. And then we are done. So if we take a look at the render sequence, so we have our character passes. You can see the name is following what I've named the job passes. So now I can put this into another folder. So I'm going to grab and copy or cut out these files. So right mouse click, cut, and then paste it into the passes folder. So create a new folder, right mouse click, create a new folder, call this character and paste it here. Okay, so you can see now we have a couple of passes that we did. We have our turntable, we have our diffuse renders, and then we can assemble it within After Effects. So I'll quickly assemble this first because the video is running a bit too long right now. I'm going to create a new, right now I'm jumping into my After Effects, the composition. I'm going to create a brand new composition and make sure this composition, right, is at HD. You can use the preset for HDTV 1080-2997. This is as good as 30 frames per second. And the duration, we're going to put it at 40 seconds for now. And then click OK. For the composition name, I'm going to call it character. Alright, so now you can see the composition is empty, but we need to bring in our assets, right, or the render sequences for the character. So right mouse click on the bin here, the project bin, and import in the projects. Okay, I'm going to use the other options. Right mouse click, import multiple files. So the first one I'm going to import is the girl, alright, Y shaded. Okay, so click on the first frame, 001, and then make sure that you import in the correct sequence. So import it in. And then next, navigate to the Unreal folder and import in your, okay, should be this one, alright. Import in your rendered sequences from Unreal. It's under the, should be under movie renders, yes. So character only. Remember, choose the first frame and then make sure the JPEG sequence is imported, is on. So now move on over to passes. And then we click on the first frame and then it should import in JPEG sequence and then import. So you can see we have, and then we can cancel this, we are done. So now we have our wireframe. Our wireframe render, which is this one. Okay, and then we can composite this against the backdrop. Now in another video, right, I already created a background. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the red background. Okay, I should have the background in this area here. Okay, I think I have to go and find where that background is. I got one of it here. I'll have to right mouse click review in Explorer. Ah, there it is. So it's inside my Maya folder. So I got another one here, which I'm going to import. Can drag and then drop it into the bin folder here. So I will start off by doing the turntable for my character first. So this is a turntable. I'll start off with the turntable. So you can see that she's turning around. Then after that, right, I want to switch over to the passes, right, and drag and drop the passes at the bottom here. But you notice that the transition to the passes will be quite abrupt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the last frame of this turntable, right, to hold for about 1 or 2 seconds so I can transition to this level. So I'm going to import the last frame of the turntable. Okay, so scroll down and import only the last frame. We do not want to import the sequence. Import the last frame. And then bring in the last frame and put it between, okay, the different shots. Now, when you import in the last frame, right, it's going to import in at 40 seconds. So we need to trim this shot. We do not want it to be so long. So you can click on the edge and then slide it to shorten it. So we're going to bring it down to be about 1 second so that we can create sort of like a 1 second transition. So to do that, open up your single image, your last frame. Then open up the transform properties, one of which is the opacity. Scrub to the timeline of this layer here. And then start with a opacity of 100%. Click on the stopwatch to indicate a key. Then have it dissolve to 0% so that we can transition from this layer to this layer. Alright. Now for the rest of this, right, these are just cuts within Unreal so that we can't really do a transition for that. Then with this done, we can now transition over to the turntable. So the turntable will be this sequence here. Alright, so the turntable, I'm going to put it right about here. And if you want to transition over to the turntable, you can do the same trick again, but this time you use the first frame of the turntable. Alright, so I will, actually no, I'm going to use the last frame of this this sequence here. So this one is the passes. So I'm going to import, right mouse click, import file. Go over to the folder that says passes and import only the last image. Only the last image. Make sure this is not on, this is not checked, and then import the last image. So for the last image, right, I'm going to drag it and put it between these two. Again, we need to trim this because this is 40 seconds long. We're going to trim it down to just 1 second. Just click on the edge and then trim it down. You can also specify it over here by going over to the properties. Let's see, can we change the properties? No, we can't. Alright, so anyway, you have to trim this until it's only about 1 second in length. Then we'll do the same trick as we did for this again. We just adjust the opacity. So open this up. Okay, under transform, opacity, we're gonna start at 100%. You can adjust the position of the opacity. Then as it reaches to the end of the clip, reduce the opacity, click and hold and drag to the left to dissolve to the next layer. Okay, so now we created our sequence. The character passes, then after that transition over to the wire unshaded. And you notice our wire unshaded is huge, it's gigantic. That's because our image is 4K. So we need to reduce this to half. So go over to the wireframe render. The scale, we're going to reduce it to 50%. So it should fit nicely into our scene. And finally, we can put our background, this pink background, so that it will not look so drag. So you can see that the wireframe is playing back. And we can end with the last frame here. Again, we're going to import a last frame of our wireframe render, which is inside the my images render. So this is the last frame. So I'm going to find the last frame here, okay, not the scooter, I don't want the scooter, I want my character, which is this one. Well, actually, I think my character paused for quite a number of times. But anyway, I'm still going to use the last frame. I just import one last frame here. And then I will put it just between the shot and the environment. So again, this one, I need to scale it down by 50%. Otherwise, it will not match. Alright. And it will stop, and then that's it. Then you can fade out, you can do whatever you want with this. So once you render all of this out into a video, you can compile your scooter sequence together with this sequence. And then for your final Unreal scenes, right, you can put both of these characters together. Also, you can pull out your old Unreal project. Remember this project that you guys did? Alright, so if you want to put them together, you want to use this to dress up your scene, you can do that. Right. If you are unable to, you can always use the other assets from the Unreal library to put everything together. Then to further refine this, you can put in titles, your contact information, and you can build a modeling portfolio out from this. Okay, so the video is pretty long as it is. I will stop the recording now, but this basically explains the entire steps of creating the sequences and then putting them together. Alright, so I shall stop the recording.